Hey, Steven, do you think I got upgraded to first class?
I don't know. Maybe. You rarely do, right?
I don't know. There's a good chance. Well, I'm executive pro platinum. I'm not executive
some
platinum.
Of that YouTuber shit.
That's some YouTube shit right there. No, that's thanks to like going to all the bowling tournaments last year, and then certain trips coming up from that came up for different camera companies that when they send you on trips, you get all the miles.
It's the only reason I have miles.
Steven does get miles so that he can waste them all to go to Disney for some
I've
dumb
got a
reason.
good 130,000 miles saved up, so I'll definitely be going somewhere soon, hopefully.
I got 875,000 or something.
Oh, my God.
Everything, Steven, it's a write-off to when I do something for business. Why am I going to use my personal miles?
That is a lot. I mean, you could do first class to like Paris probably with that many miles.
More than that, like
2
3 or
trips
4
to
times.
Paris. Yeah.
Well, back in the day, the miles used to be worth a little more. Now they're starting to tamper down a little bit, so it's like you got to spend more to get somewhere.
So pre-pandemic, I would always try to book our flights first, so I can then pick a week where I could redeem the least amount of miles. So that way, I was only using like 40 to 50,000 miles for 2 round trip flights for my wife and I. Then I would plan our vacation around that. So instead of a Saturday to Saturday trip, we did like a Monday to Sunday trip, and we saved a ton of miles doing it that way. Nowadays, it's nearly 80,000 miles for 1 round trip ticket, and that's flying domestic in coach. It's insane these days.
I'll tell you, I was looking at a certain flight for one of the bowling events in where are they going to Indianapolis, and it was like 4,500 miles each way, by the way. That's it.
That's
it was 4,500 miles. Right. And it was like 9,000 points for round trip instead of like $700.
I was looking to go to Boston, which is only a 6-hour drive
What's in
from
Boston?
here. A buddy doing a bachelor party soon, and
you should fly to Boston. Do not drive. Do not take the train.
Well, so I looked at the train, and it's 6 hours, or 5 hours with the Acela, or I drive, and it's 6 hours. But I'm only going up for a night or two, so I'm not trying to drive 6 hours and then 6 hours back the next day.
Take the plane.
And the plane ride, I think, is an hour 15.
45 minutes.
Well, when you're actually in the air, yeah, but supposedly an hour 15 all in. And I think it's 23,000 miles just for Boston.
Well, how much was it to spend the money?
$200.
It's a tax, dude. $200 to save your miles.
Sorry, it's a write-off. I should just pay for it myself.
Are you taking pictures in B-roll?
No.
Are you taking
I'm gonna
video?
Be getting drunk with my buddies for his bachelor party.
Are you making content for Wire Stock?
Well,
Steven?
maybe a couple TikToks or Reels. So does that count as work?
If you spend like 40% of your some amount of your time doing work, then it's considered a work trip.
Yeah, but
for
to you, everything is work. Like you walking down the street to get lunch is work.
That's work because I might be someone might stop me and be like, "Are you that guy?" Yeah, I'm that guy.
Oh man,
people do that all the time. They're like, "Are you him?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. That's right."
How do you not know it's you? You have a giant afro and a tight I Shoot Raw shirt.
I thought it was some other guy. I didn't think. I mean, who else wears this?
Anyway, moral of the story: flights are crazy expensive these days, unless you're going to Indianapolis.
Well, the reason I bring up flying. Oh, this is RAWtalk episode 36, by the way.
Yes,
RAWtalk episode 36. So we want more of your text messages to 313-710-9729. We want more of your reviews, but we can't read any that you did last week because we are actually pre-recording because we have to be away next week.
Yes,
and for a thing that we can't tell you about. But it is a business trip.
It's a write-off.
It's a write-off. So that's why we're pre-doing this. We actually have some things to talk about that we normally talk about, what we're doing here. And then there's actually an interview that was done of me. I was getting interviewed by an Israeli photo group thing, and I enjoyed it so much that I thought that the content was good enough.
You enjoyed you talking about yourself?
Yeah, it was all about me. It's like a date. It's like when I'm on a date. It's just like, this date went really well. I talked about me the whole time.
You're like, wait, what's your name? Sorry?
Yeah, what? Dude, so one time,
no,
Steven.
Please, you didn't know their name.
Steven, so one time, I went out with this girl once. Then we went out again. I didn't know her name. I forgot her name. I couldn't find it anywhere. So I got her to show me her ID so I could read her name and be like, oh, that's right. That was her name.
How did you get her to show you her ID?
I was probably like, let me see your photo on your ID. I want to see if it's any good. Here's mine.
So random, though.
Yeah, but you know who I am, right?
That's true. Yeah,
I am Mr.
You're very random. Yeah, squirrel.
That's right. So I did. I figured out her name from there.
You're so
You want to know what it was?
So clever.
You want to know what it was?
John.
Nicole. Her name's Nicole.
That's a good name. It's my wife's name.
And
What's her last name?
And 12 of your exes.
Actually, you're right. My wife's name and my ex-girlfriend both named Nicole. Coincidence, I swear.
I love my favorite is when a girl's like, I went out with a Jared before. I can't go out with another one. I'm like, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
It really is.
Oh, because you had a bad experience with a person named Jared. You know what? I don't want to go out with you anymore. That's fucking stupid. Go away. And that's what I have to say about that. Speaking of going away, I hope that I get upgraded to first class. There's a good chance at 72 hours prior to the flight, I might get that ding unless someone else bought first class to wherever we're going. Now, it's not the longest flight in the world, but I don't care. I just like when Steven walks by me and is like,
when I'm with the peasants in the back.
yeah, but the thing is, you get to go on the plane with me and you get to board with me, and either way you get to board in zone 2 because I'm a zone 2 now.
Oh, I'm a group 4, I think.
Well, group 4 is pretty good. That's where we used to be, and all that stuff. Anyway, let's talk about this post we were looking at on Instagram. It was I'll just set it up before we roll the audio for it. Why did we want to do this again? I sort of forget.
I don't know. You sent it to me, and I responded like, "This is not reality at all." It's basically a day in the life of a young woman.
Right, it's basically a day in the life of her. It's like, follow me through my day. And everybody does these stupid voiceovers, and every girl sounds the same. Today I went and got up at this time. Then I went and got a cup of coffee. Then I went and played with myself in the bathroom, in the bathtub, while my boyfriend was waiting outside because he didn't know what I was doing. And he can't satisfy me with his 2-inch penis. But that's another story for another day. Then I went for a walk with my dog. Then I went to work for about 12 seconds. Anyway, Steven, can we roll? That is what they sound like. Can we go ahead, roll the audio? You guys can't see it, but just imagine a girl in yoga pants with long hair that looks like every other 20-something today. Steven, roll that bean footage.
A day in my life as a 27-year-old in Boston. Today is Friday. I woke up at 7, made the bed, did my skincare, and then I made some tea for my boyfriend and I. I have been drinking so much tea lately. I have been loving it. And then I made some yogurt bowls for breakfast, and I sat down to do some journaling and plan out my day. We decided to go on a morning walk. Even though it was disgusting outside, it was so gray, we did not last very long. We came back, I finished getting ready for the day, and I logged on to work around 9. I caught up on some emails, edited for a couple hours, and then I took a break at noon to go grab some groceries and make lunch. And then I just sat down and worked for the rest of the afternoon until I logged off around 5:45 and did a yoga class. I showered, ordered the most delicious pizza for dinner, and then I made this little snack board because I had some friends coming over who brought over their new puppy they just rescued. She is so cute. We had some more tea when they left, watched Gossip Girl, and went to bed.
Steven, what's your take on that? I want to get your take first.
See, my big thing is it's just a bunch of fake bullshit. In my opinion, I like seeing vlogs and behind the scenes videos. Like, I like seeing the reality of life. I like seeing the good, the bad, the ugly, realizing that you're just a human being like all of us, and you have good days, bad days. It's not some picture perfect, day in the life of. And
she didn't even stop to go to the bathroom.
But with this video, she's making this picture perfect looking breakfast for her and her boyfriend. She goes for a walk on a disgusting, dreary day with her boyfriend. Like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Hey, hun, it's really shitty outside. Looks like a perfect day for a walk. You in? I mean, come on.
I just don't understand I logged on to work around 9 o'clock and I logged off around 5:45. But in between at noon, I went shopping for groceries and stopped for lunch. It's like, what do you do for a living? See, when they don't tell you what they do, maybe she is a video editor and she was editing. But like, what do you mean you edited video? Or what are you doing? I'm not saying you always need to go to the office, but there's a reason you go to the office, because you focus. I woke up at 7 and then I got the breakfast made, which was terrible. Lots of sugar in that breakfast. Shouldn't be eating it. Then you went for a walk on a crappy day with your boyfriend. You didn't even shoot him. You barely showed your boyfriend, but at 8 in the morning, you're doing a walk. What's he doing with his life? Like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm not going to take a lazy ass millennial fucking walk like you two did.
Oh, my favorite too are all of the comments. I check them right after, and like some of the top comments are like, "This is a nightmare." Bullshit. How is this possible to get grocery and cooking done in 1 hour? Everything that's wrong with social media right now. That's so not a rescue puppy. That's the other thing I wanted to comment on was at the way end, they're like, and then my friend decided to bring the rescue puppy over. Specifically had to say rescue puppy because, again, it has to be picture perfect. And if you go with a breeder, it's frowned upon. Like this clearly is not a rescued puppy. It has to be maybe a 12-week-old puppy at best. Looks like a white lab or golden retriever or something, which are incredibly hard to find that young. That's my point, to find them that young at a shelter or a rescue. Not to say you can't find one, but as a puppy, they're going to be snagged up right away if they even make it to the rescue in the first place.
Do you know what happened? Her friend unzipped somebody's pants, got down on her knees, and went to town and was like, and then she's like, "Oh, it's a rescue puppy."
Unless you have friends that had a golden retriever and they happen to have puppies, but at that point, I almost consider that from a breeder.
That's not a rescue
exactly, because you're not adopting it, really. You know,
that's like, oh, you didn't rescue. I just think that everybody needs a rescue. Now, when I got my cat with one eye fucking ball, I went to paws. Like, I rescued him, but I don't sit there and tell people. I say he's adopted. Yeah. I got him at paws. Like, I don't need to. Oh, good for you. Whoop-de-doo. You rescued a puppy.
But that's the point I wanted to bring up, is that they had to specifically say the rescue puppy came over. Why can't you just say puppy? Because again, it's not picture perfect. And I'm not trying to be a hater here. I'm just trying to call out people that are clearly presenting these fake lifestyles that to me could be very dangerous mentally to other people watching that, thinking that, you know, this is how everyone lives their life. And that's not the case at all. It's scary.
After I logged off at work at 5:45, I then went ahead and made a cheese board because my friends were going to come over with their rescue puppy. Then we watched some Golden Girls until about 10:30. Then I went to bed. Where is your boyfriend in all of this? Where is the boyfriend? How come then when we went to bed at 10:30, he rolled over and was like, "Hey girl, would you like me to Narfle your Garthug?" And I was like, "Sorry, I'm too tired. I got to get up in the morning to go for a walk."
And I just want to continue on this path of the top comments on this post, which I'm sure is killing her. It says, "Turns out everyone has this perfect life on social media. Lately, everyone is getting up, making breakfast, doing yoga, and making snacks. Who else came down to the comments to see if you were the only one thinking this is actually such a stupid video?" And this one's my favorite. It says, "Let's see how many people can relate to this actually. I wake up at 8:59 a.m. I start working at 9 a.m. After I log in, I go to wash my face to wake up, check my emails to do my urgent tasks as quick as possible, then jump in bed with a mouse next to me. Stay there until lunchtime, skip the lunch, have a 1 hour nap instead, wake up, log back in, and watch more YouTube and Twitch if I have nothing to do. Log off at 5:29 and order food from Uber Eats since I get super lazy, then start playing games and go to bed."
So this is why work from home doesn't exactly work for the most part.
Well, hey, I don't think that's everybody. Trust me.
No, I know
wish
it's not
I had
everybody.
that kind of time.
It's not everybody. Like, you work from home now since it's been 3 years since the pandemic, you know.
And tonight, I guarantee I'll be up until 9 o'clock, probably finishing the podcast before we go away.
Right. But you get your work done. You know, Dan works from home. It's questionable whether he gets his work done. It's always questionable. Like, I texted him today to come help me with a thumbnail, and it took like 15 minutes to get a response. I don't know where he was. I don't know what he was doing. He was probably out grocery shopping, then making lunch for his rescue puppy.
Or maybe doing yoga, yeah.
Or maybe Dan doesn't do yoga. Though it wouldn't put me past him to try to go to a yoga class and be like, hi everybody. My name's Dan, and hi, this is my wife, Anna, and then yeah, let's do some yoga. Anyway, the moral of the story is
be real.
Yeah, like, if you're going to put stuff out into the world, put stuff out into the world. Nobody believes your picture perfect bullshit. And that's one of the major issues with whatever generations are growing up today. I'm not going to pinpoint just millennials and xenials, but mostly millennials and xenials are a bunch of bitches. And I'm considered a millennial on the cusp of X, on the cusp of millennial from 1981.
Yeah.
So I'm that 5-year span, the one that's in the middle of X. I got some millennial tendencies, but not today's tendency. I'm talking about the kids who were born with the internet fully in their pocket,
Gen Z,
and on their phone.
Post 9/11,
where they want pet bereavement time. So if your dog dies, they want time off for their pet. Like, I get it.
Honestly, I would probably take at least a day off if my dog passed.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally fine. But like a week for pet bereavement and all that bullshit.
I wouldn't do that, but yeah.
It's like, no, you don't get that shit. But if you're a human, something happens, okay, fine. Yeah, no problem.
And hey, like, I truly think some people actually need that mentally, but I think the issue is people take advantage of it. That's the issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to the interview, guys. So I'll set it up. These people reached out to me. They have an organization or a group of, they teach in Israel, and they asked me if I wanted to do a talk. Actually, they asked me if I wanted to teach, and I'm like, how am I going to, I don't teach on Zoom. I just don't. It's not going to happen. Oh. But we can do a Q&A, and you can ask me a bunch of questions, and people can ask questions, and I like the conversation. So I honestly think there's a lot that you can learn about me. I think there's a lot you can learn about me in this conversation again.
All about me.
It's all about me. That's why I liked it so much. But really, I thought it was entertaining and informative. And just listen to how when I come up with examples of things, I try to put myself in Israel or Israeli shoes to put it in terms that they can understand. Those people, you people.
Keep in mind, too, guys, that, this is all over Zoom. We didn't have anything really properly recorded, so it's going to sound much different than a normal podcast, but it is what it is. It's no big deal.
Yes, our podcast is the best-sounding podcast on the internet, I would venture to say.
On the entire internet.
Well, you guys know what we're talking about. That when you go onto someone else's podcast and the intro plugs are lower volume, and then
the worst.
You get higher volume for the show, or it sounds like shit, or they don't edit, where they don't take out the pauses, or...
There's podcasts I listen to that literally repeat themselves because they do a pickup, take it back, but they don't cut out the original part that they messed up. And it's like, how do you guys not listen back to the entire podcast before you post it?
Yeah, so here it is. Let's roll it, and then we'll come back to wrap up the entire episode. Play podcast right here, Steven. Leave this in. Leave this in.
Podcast.
Insert. Yeah, leave that in. Insert podcast. Be sure to take this out, Steven. Don't take it out. Leave it in.
As I just ranted about people not listening back to their podcast.
Shut up and roll the damn podcast
already. Hopefully I don't cut that out by accident.
All right, so let's start with all the questions. I've prepared a lot of questions. Also, the audience sent some questions for you. Cool. I'm sure we won't be able to walk through all of them, but I'm looking forward to hear your answers, to learn from you, and all of us here are really excited. So, are you ready?
Let it roll.
All right. So we're gonna have some questions about you, about your career, maybe some personal. Feel free to say, I don't want to answer that, or just answer. It could be great. And also some questions about how to learn photography, questions about gear, of course, and let's see how it goes. So. Yep. About your career when you first started. You started really young. So, what got you into photography? How it all started?
Yeah. So when I was 13 in junior high school, I was at one of the basketball games that the kids were playing, and I saw some yearbook photographers, and I say yearbook photographers, taking pictures because they were just taking pictures of warm-ups, and that didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel right that they were just taking pictures of people standing around that I looked at and was like, there's no way these can be good because nothing is actually happening. So I borrowed my mom's point-and-shoot camera, a Fuji Discovery 1000, I believe, and went back to the next game with a roll of black and white film and sat on the baseline, shot what I thought should have been shot, even with, and it's all with a point and shoot. And when we got the images back, I had the timing, right? Even though there was a delay on a point and shoot when the time you press the shutter to the time it actually shot, I figured it all out quickly and it just felt right. And so I was just able right off the bat to use a point and shoot and get the action shots and figure out what worked. And so that's how I got my start and just kept building from there.
Wow. So, and did they like the photos better than the other photographers?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them that ended up in the yearbook at that point because they liked my action shots. And then I bought I almost said DSLR, but I bought a film, whatever they were called back in the day. not DS, it's just an SLR, a film camera, and it was a Canon EOS Elan 2E with a basic 100 to 300 lens, and I started to shoot in auto modes. I didn't know what to do beyond that. We didn't have the internet was in 1994. It wasn't exactly full of information on how to shoot. I didn't realize that I could have gone to a library to try and learn something. That never crossed my mind because I never went into the library. And so it was just a lot of trial and error, right? Understanding aperture priority was where I kind of started and lived for a long time because I didn't understand manual. I didn't know what to do. And you obviously couldn't see your images when you took them to know that you made a mistake and you should shoot again. So I just kept at it, just kept shooting and figuring it out. And I always had an eye for it. I always had the eye for it, but the settings and exposure stuff took a lot longer to get under wraps. And that's why I was in aperture priority for such a long time.
Yeah. So that actually leads me to the next question. How did you actually learn? Did you have like a mentor, or you didn't have your own YouTube channel to learn from? Nope. Obviously. So how did you learn?
So a lot of it was I used to hang out at the camera store as a teenager. I would go ride my bike to the camera store and I would just talk to the employees. And one of the guys that worked there was a photographer. He also worked at the store, and he would give me advice about gear and just advice about learning and how to get better and critique my work. And in high school, we actually luckily I had 3 full years of photography there. Because I chose not to take another language. Here, they would try to force you to take a language to prepare for going to college, because in college, they looked favorably upon another language, and I knew I wasn't going to go to a traditional school. So I ended up dropping out of any class that I didn't need, and I took photography earlier, and that's where I started to have actual formal training. We would get into the darkroom, we would process the negatives, we would print with the enlargers, and just really start to learn from there. And that's how the education started. I had a couple of teachers that were really good and were able to get some messages across. But a lot of it becomes trial and error over time, and you have to really teach yourself.
Yeah, great. So would you remember one of them as like a mentor that really guided you, or many of them just...
No, I mean, yes, there's, the guy at the camera store was really a mentor. The second teacher that I had in high school was a pretty big mentor with educating and helping frame the world, but he also had a knack for pushing me in the wrong way. Like he once said, "I think you're only good because of your gear," and he didn't really mean it as a slight. He was trying to force me to evolve and learn instead of just doing the same thing and over, which was just shooting action and freezing action. He was trying to kick me in the ass. It kicked me in the ass, but it kicked me in the ass the wrong direction, where I was like, fuck this. I can prove him wrong, basically. And we've talked about it since. And it wasn't his intention there, but it wasn't wrong. A lot of the reason I had early success with better looking images had to do with the fact that I did buy an 80 to 200 2.8. And I had an N90S at the time, a film camera, and that gear helped me in the way of getting a better exposure and getting better bokeh, and even though I didn't understand it yet. So at that point, I didn't understand it, the gear that I had, but I did grow into it. That's why I'm a big encourager of quality glass from day one. 2.8s are better. The 1.8s, the 1.4s, they don't all need to be expensive, but there's a reason that you don't get kit lenses. Or if you have a kit lens, you hate it after a couple of weeks because you're not getting results that you envision that you should be getting. And that's why I'm a big proponent of better glass and continue to push that regardless of people saying, but beginners don't need the best equipment. It's like, well, those are sometimes the people that need some of the better gear. You're letting more light in, which helps in turn keep the ISO down, which then means your images are going to be cleaner. Yes, and better bokeh. You're just happier with the pictures you get when you have some of that better gear.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. Always when I teach, and all the teachers always talk about it, that learning and experience is much more important than the gear. But on the other hand, the gear gets you like you get good results, and basically if you know what you're doing. So
Well, yeah, and on that, there, I will say that gear doesn't matter until gear matters. And what I mean by that is when you're first starting out, all I really care about is, can you get the composition right? If you have a good eye and you get composition, anybody can teach you exposure triangle. That's the easy stuff, right? That's cause and effect. The harder thing to teach is how to have the eye. But then when you start seeing the world better, you then realize that, oh, I have a 1.8 lens versus a 5.6. You might see a difference with your background blur, and that's going to give you better results at that point. And then when you're a full-time pro, you can shoot with anything. You could shoot with the most basic camera in the world and the most basic lenses and still get great results. But we want to use the best of the best with Honor Sir gear because we can pull better results out of that gear more so than someone who's just starting out. So in that case, the gear matters in the right hands.
Yeah, totally agreed. So when you first started, did you imagine that you would become like real professional and get money, get paid for your job? And what was your first job, paid job?
One of my first paid jobs was for a magazine that I bothered until they gave me a job. It was for sports cards collectibles, but it was a pricing guide, a company called Beckett. So they did sports, and I wanted to shoot sports, and they finally sent me out on a couple of assignments, and that was the first time that I got actually paid. I was probably 14 or 15 years old, and my mom would drive me around to the shoots because we can't drive at that age. So she would drive me around, and I would do a shoot. And I think what happened is I only did 2 for them and then didn't hear from them because I basically fucked up the one shoot, didn't do a good job. But I didn't know why, but that's on me because I was young and I didn't have the experience, and it just so happened to be what happened.
Yeah, but did you learn from this experience? Did you have anything to learn?
Well, I mean, I didn't know why, right? I didn't understand. They never explained it, but you learn from it. I mean, you maybe I was there too soon, right? Maybe I wasn't ready, but it's just what I had. And you don't know that until you do it. I was shooting action stuff and my work wasn't great yet, but you could see the underlying images were there. There was good composition and I had good moments and the good ability to capture the action. But what they ended up sending me out on was not something that I've ever done before. But at that point, when someone's like, we're going to pay you to do something, you're like, and they say, can you do it? The answer is yes, I can do it. And you figure it out. Or you fail. And then when you fail, you learn from it, and then you come back stronger the next time.
Yeah, wow, perfect. Great answer. Right, so let's see what we have here. All right. Let's talk a little bit about your current job, about the present. What projects do you have ongoing, and what are the next projects that you're thinking about?
Yeah. Obviously the YouTube is the business. People are like, are you even a working photographer anymore? And the answer is no. I don't have to be, because I choose not to be, because I'm able through the YouTube to generate enough revenue to focus on the things that I want to focus on. And I tell people that that's the goal of every photographer, for a lot of photographers, is to get to a position where you can shoot the things you want to shoot when you want to shoot them. And to me, that's the ultimate power and the ultimate success, is that you can get there and shoot what you want. I don't generally take jobs from other people because I don't want to be beholden to their expectations. I don't want to hear like, we want this, when that's not even what they need. And so my day-to-day is doing the YouTube, but I can go shoot what I want to shoot, which is the baseball games, the soccer games, the basketball, whatever I want to do, and I use it to test gear. And there's some other things in the future that I'd like to work on that are off of YouTube. I've got a personal project called 6 Degrees where I spend the day in the life of interesting people with all access to capture whatever I want to capture, and then they get to send me to someone else anywhere in the world, and I do their photo story. So those are fun projects, but all of it leads back to more content that I can share with the YouTube audience and more things that I can use to educate people.
Right. So you see yourself as an educator and not like more educator, less
Well,
photographer?
the way that I explain it to people is I'm a photographer who so happens to make YouTube videos. Because it was always trying to figure out how to frame it. People are like, "You're an influencer." I'm like, "I'm influential. People look to me to make purchases, but I don't want to be clumped in with the influencer dancing TikTok star because they don't influence anything." So it's like I'll start using terms when I actually do those things and other people try to say that they do and they really don't. I come across as like, yes, I actually do that. So, yeah, I'm an influencer. And I never liked calling myself an artist either because I felt an artist is someone who's, painting and drawing and doing all of that stuff. Whereas I thought photography for me was documenting. I'm a photojournalist. I capture the moment. And that's for me. But then when I saw people that had terrible art that I perceived to be terrible, I'm like, fine, I'm an artist. You guys aren't. But I'll be an artist because I'm actually good at it. That's just the way I look at it. I mean, it's how I look at it. It doesn't mean that it's right. It just means that's how I do things.
So basically, your work is all made of personal projects. Like you don't like anything you want to shoot or people or sports or whatever. You do it as a personal project to create content for your YouTube channel.
Mostly. Yeah, I mean it's rare that someone's going to be able to call me and be like, "I have a job for you to come do." Because if someone calls and says, "I have an interesting shoot, would you like to do it?" We can talk about it, right? That's a different thing. But for the most part, unless there's a reason for me to do it, or I choose to do it, or it's someone who may not be able to afford it, but I still want to do it anyway, I'm going to do it and give them the gift of photography. I'm going to give them the images because I'm at a place where I can do that, and so that's really it. When it comes to jobs.
Wow, it's an amazing place to be, like personally, to do whatever you want. That's the main idea in this life. I mean, not only in photography.
Yep.
Right. So maybe can you share some future project that you are thinking about?
I mean, it's really continuing doing the products or the videos that I'm doing. It's reviews. It's going out and doing my 6 degrees, trying to figure out if there's a Netflix style show that can be made, right? Be a producer along those lines. Maybe it's not about me, but it's about something else. If I have an idea, like when we went on the road with Bernie Sanders and you have all of I don't know if that people hate him over there because they think that he's anti whatever, but he's actually not. But creating the documentary style things that we've done on the road with him is along the lines of stuff that I would love to create with other projects and see what happens.
All right. So by the way, where can people see your work? Maybe even during the live session? What's the best?
Well, the personal work is jaredpolin.com. You can put it in the chat. JaredPolin.com.
Okay.
That's my personal site. So there's people, places, photojournalistic stuff, my 6 degrees project. That's where you can see all of that work.
All right. So yeah, I'm putting it right now to the chat. All right, guys, enjoy during the live. All right. So let's get a little bit more personal, I guess, or like personal about you or your ideas. By the way, have you ever been to Israel? What do you know about Israel or Israeli
I've been
photographers?
I've been there multiple times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2009 for one of the Maccabi games. I did photography for that, and then there's an organization called Vibe Israel that brought me and a bunch of other photographers to spend a week going around shooting. So that was 2015 or so. That's on my website. You can see under places, photo stories, places that my Israel trip should be up there.
Nice. What do you remember from your trip?
Well, I mean, I remember everything from my trip,
Falafel?
but I don't eat the fried stuff.
Okay.
I stay away from the falafel. But no, I mean, one of the things is we were going out to En Gedi and there was torrential downpours and the roads got swept away because it was the one time a year that it flooded. So we got out of there and went to Tel Aviv. And what was crazy is that it wasn't planned, but we ended up staying at our tour guide's house with her husband and her kids, and there were like 8 of us on the trip, and it was awesome to just sit with real people, right, and just until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, just talk on the balcony in Tel Aviv in one of the apartment buildings, and just learn from someone who actually lives there. That was the coolest thing. Instead of being in one of the posh hotels that they put us in, we were actually all just camping together, and that was one of the best parts of the trip. But we went out to the fish market where the, I don't know, you probably know if you look at my images. But we got out there at like 4:35 in the morning for the boats coming in, the fishermen. That's what I wanted to photograph. I thought that would be fun, so we did do that. Went and met with Ziv Karen. Do you know Ziv?
Yep.
So they took us to hear Ziv speak at his studio, and then I was like, Ziv, can I come back tomorrow and do an interview? So I went back on my own and became friends with him. We talk all the time because he is a badass. I mean, the type of stuff that he does, the photojournalistic work that he does, the situations he puts himself in, his work is, fantastic.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's been to Ukraine like during
twice. Yeah.
Like lately, and yeah, he's crazy. But he's a very, very known photographer here in Israel.
Yep.
Right. So I guess everybody would like to know what your like day-to-day look like the not the Jared Polin we see on YouTube, but what do you do when
I
you
sit at this desk. I sit here in front of this computer most of the time. Either I'm writing a script for Photo News Fix or something else for us to do, or editing images, looking at YouTube videos, right? Preparing our videos to go up. I have 2 editors. I've got Steven and Dan. They're editing stuff while I'm here either doing busy work. I mean, a lot of photography is the business, right? And a lot of business is the business, right? You're not always, if you're a restaurant, the business isn't just cooking. It's making sure you've got everything that runs properly. It's 90% doing other stuff. And then the execution is the 10%. So 90% of the time is spent preparing for doing different videos or editing or paying bills. So it's a totally different, I mean, this is my day to day. Well, today I woke up at 5:49 a.m. and I had a workout at 6 a.m. And my birthday was Saturday, so I had that. But I still wake up. The gym is a big aspect of my life. 3 days a week, I work out at 7 in the morning, except today we did 6 a.m. I come into the studio, I bowl, not here, but I bowl during the week. I take painting class now, so I've been drawing. So a lot of it is finding things for me to do amongst creating content, because you can't just do that nonstop, because if you do, how are you going to edit it and keep it quality and get it out into the world?
Yeah.
So that's my day to day.
Wow, amazing. Sounds really like fulfilling, I guess. And happy birthday. How old are you?
42.
42. All right.
Yeah.
Me too. Okay. I have a lot to get to. All right. So what would you say is your biggest challenge in work?
Well, the biggest challenge comes around to what are we doing next, right? How do you keep the content fresh? There's always going to be ideas, right? But it's how do you evolve and grow at what we do to not stagnate? So is that trying something different, right? Is that doing a different style of video and seeing if it works? Because you never know what's going to work. And so a lot of it is trying different things. And that's really it.
Do you find yourself sometimes, stagnant? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't have the answer.
In day-to-day life, yes. I mean, in day-to-day life, yeah. I mean, I work out, I eat, lunch and dinner. Dinner's a big thing. I like going out to eat, but there's a lot of downtime, right? You can't be on 100% of the time. I feel like I should be on 100% of the time, because I feel like if I'm not actually doing something, that I'm failing. And a lot of people just like to hang out and sit around. That's not me. I want to be doing something all the time. And that doesn't always mean shooting. It just means I just need to be active. I need to be doing something. And so, yeah, I feel like I have to do stuff.
All right. So Yeah, well, actually, you answered a lot of questions that I had already during your talk, which is great. And how was your career and all the things that you do was influenced by the COVID era, like 2 or 3 years ago?
None. I mean, I was already established at that point. So, COVID, I still created content. It was our busiest time. We had our best years during the 2 years of COVID. Well, I mean, it's still going, but those times where people were locked down around the world, our views doubled. So I mean, I kept creating. My guys worked at their houses. They still work at their houses because there was no need to come back to the studio for the most part. And we just used Dropbox and zip, not zip files, but we zap files back and forth that way because we all have gigabit internet, so we're able to get the files like that. But it was just continue to do shoots that I could do. We could go educate. I could meet Steven in a parking lot outside and we could make a video about something. So that's what we continued to do. I also gave away a lot of content. I gave away a lot of education. I gave away my beginner guide to getting out of auto instead of selling it, because at first it was really meant for parents to give to their kids who might be out of school for only 2 weeks, which obviously we know it wasn't 2 weeks. And I gave away thousands of downloads of that just to do it. And then I put it up because people were like, well, we want to pay you for it if pay you something. And then I put pay what you want. You could download it for free or you could pay what you want. And that I gave that stuff away, that guide, and I gave away the flash guide so that people could learn during this time and have something to better themselves with.
Yeah, so I guess your most of your work is online with the channel and all the courses. So you were really prepared for this era.
Well,
because everything was online.
It turned out that way. Yeah, I mean, it just worked for us that people were at home watching videos. Now, when the pandemic opened up, or when everybody started to go back out into the world, the views went back to where they were pre-pandemic. So there's nothing we can do about that. That's just eyeballs change.
Yeah, but it's good that you were prepared and already, like, everything was ready for you, because I guess most of the businesses, of course, photographers just went out or went out of jobs. So
that was a very tough time for some of my friends who were wedding photographers and had to cancel 20, 30 weddings, which is a lot of money. And then what happens is they lose those dates, and then they have to rebook those dates, which means they're not able to take new jobs that they otherwise would have taken. But it also meant that you had to get creative, because now weddings were on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, right? They were every day of the week. So you had opportunities to still pick up extra gigs. You just had to figure it out. But for a lot of photographers, it was, and obviously probably cost people their businesses because they couldn't shoot and get paid. That was very difficult.
Yeah, I guess you can consider yourself lucky.
Yeah.
Amazing. What set of skills do you think you have that make you successful? Because not everybody, there are a lot of good photographers who know their stuff and a lot of good teachers, but nobody is Jared Polin. So what makes you successful? You can be, you don't need to be modest.
Oh, I'm never modest. I think part of it is, when I started making, well, look, I wasn't successful in my 20s. There was the perception of success, like I was shooting freelance for Rolling Stone, but that was freelance for Rolling Stone. And I know I don't lie to people. So if I say I'm shooting for Rolling Stone, I make it abundantly clear that it was freelance and that I wasn't a staffer or something along those lines. And I might have only gotten paid $400 every couple months to do one shoot when a band came through town. I had the perception, people had the perception that I was successful because of the things that I was shooting. But a lot of those things didn't pay well. And so in my 20s, it was a struggle. I did end up shooting weddings, and you can make good money. I was making good money doing that, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. But, in the 30s, when I started the YouTube channel in 2010, I started it with the hope that it would end up getting me more jobs, right? That was the idea. If I make these videos, people will see my work, and then they'll want to hire me. And what happened is when I started making videos, people saw my videos and started to have questions about how to be better photographers. And so then I just went ahead and made a video every time someone had a question. Because I'm like, if this person's asking this question, then there's going to be 100,000 people that might have the same question. And so that's what I did. My work ethic was tireless, right? I didn't stop. I woke up in the morning, I made a video, I edited a video, I posted a video. I had lunch, I read comments, and I repeated the process the next day nonstop for 7+ years. It averaged out to 1 video a day. And now we're up to 2 or 3. We just down to 2 or 3 videos a week because YouTube has evolved and YouTube continues to change, and you don't want to oversaturate and you don't want to bother people with too much content, at least my type of content. Some other people can upload every day, and that's just what they do. But it all depends on where you're at. So, you can look at. I work hard. I wouldn't want to start over again, but if I had to, I would. I'm always going to try to find a way to be successful. I'm going to try to find a way to get access because access is key. And I just try to beat down all the doors. If a door closes, I try to kick it down. I try to find a way around it. I try to figure out what to do next. So I just don't stop. I'm relentless in that sense. And I'll just say that you don't have to be the best photographer in the world to be successful. We all know that there's photographers out there who are really good at business and marketing and good at schmoozing who are terrible photographers. And they somehow make a living, but that's because people like them. And that's part of the battle is people have to like you. And they don't always have to like you, but the other thing is not saying no to everything. If you say no to everything, you might be missing opportunities that are that potentially could lead somewhere. Like earlier, I said I don't take jobs from anybody, but I did a 6 degree shoot of a chef, Michael Solomonov. He owns a Israeli themed restaurant called Zahav here, and Laser Wolf and all of these kafar. Yeah, it's all Israeli stuff, but he real big here in Philly and New York. He connected me with a friend, and the friend just needed some photos with his family in the park. And normally I wouldn't do that, but I'm like, I need to stop saying no. Like, I don't need to do I just fucking do it. It only took me 30 minutes to do. And the connection that I made is a very valuable connection. So sometimes you do the things, well, I always say sometimes you do the things that you don't want to do that allow you to do the things that you do want to do. Sometimes you take shoots that you don't want to do to make that money, to afford the other things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But saying no to everything is not good because you never know who you're going to meet, where you're going to meet someone, or what it might lead to. Now, that doesn't mean get taken advantage of. That doesn't mean that people come along and say, oh, you want to do this shoot for free and it might lead to more work? Fuck you. No, I don't. It depends on who it is. And it depends on what it is. You have to be smart about it. And none of this like, well, if you do this shoot for me at a discount, I have 5 more shoots. I'd be like, well, how about I do the shoot for you and you bring me more work and then I end up giving you a discount if I want to, right? Like we don't go walk into the restaurant and say, yeah, I don't want to pay that 30 shekels, which is probably not that much. I don't know how much shekels are worth anymore, but I don't want to pay those shekels and negotiate. Maybe you do negotiate there. You know what? You know who you yell at in Israel? The taxi drivers who push a button and all of a sudden it went from 30 shekels to 53 shekels. And I'm like, fuck you. I'm not paying that. Toda robah.
Yeah. All right.
But that actually happens all the time. They somehow it automatically jumps up at the end to some certain amount. And I'm like, yeah, no, dude. No, you're not pushing me around because you think I'm a tourist. I'm from Philly. We fucking yell at people. And that's what Israelis do. They yell at people. So if you don't yell back at Israelis and you don't push back, you get no respect. You get more respect when you push back because all you guys do is yell at each other. But then you love each other because you're all there for a common good. And that's, what I learned in Israel is everybody has a gun, but you don't feel not safe because of that. In the United States, you don't know who the fuck has a gun, and that's why you're not safe because you don't know who's carrying a gun, so you don't want to say shit. Yeah, that's the story of Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah, because there is, we need to push, we need to push, but we also love. We're a very warm country.
Very loving and very pushy.
Yeah. Well, that's us for better and for better, I guess. Yeah. All right. So Would you say you have a certain skill that you wish you had, like to get yourself to be better at something that, I don't know, you for some reason you can't achieve or you still haven't achieved?
Well, I'm trying to bowl better all the time. I'm a bowler, so that 300 game or that 200 plus average, I'm not far off. But in the photo sense of the word, I mean, I'm always trying to evolve. I used to edit videos. I don't like editing videos, so I don't edit videos. I did the first couple hundred or 500 on my channel because I didn't have an editor. But I choose not to learn how to edit. I mean, I know how to edit. I've had challenges where other people are like, do this, and I've been able to do it. I just don't want to do it. It's not exciting to me, so I choose not to do it. But that is a skill set that every photographer in this day and age should have, is the ability to shoot video and edit video is going to add so much more value if you're looking for a specific type of job. Not everybody's looking to get paid, and certain people just want to become better photographers, and that's perfectly fine. A lot of people look at me and say, well, you don't know how to shoot flash. I know how to shoot flash. Right, I've shot flash. I've done flash in high school. Oh, fuck, I sound like Donald Trump. I do not want to sound like Donald Trump. I know how to shoot flash. I've shot flash. Fuck off. I choose not to do it. I like to do continuous lights, and I find that continuous lights for me are easier, just easier to work with. I don't like working with studio strobes anymore. It's a slower style of shooting that I don't like doing, and it's also obtrusive, where I like to be unobtrusive and be able to move around. But I do understand that some of the lighting stuff does make images much better, and that's why if you have continuous lights, I have these LED lights, and someone can move them around. And if you're in a music studio and you pop these lights up and they're out of the way, but they create dimension and nicer lighting than a crappy studio, like a recording studio, then yeah, that's going to be better. So understanding that is fine. I don't know. I'm not great at everything, but I'm competent at most things, I think. I like to think that I'm capable of doing anything if I try, and that's why I get upset if I don't bowl very well, because I expect to do better.
Right. Are there any things in photography that you really feel that you don't know, and how do you learn them? Like, you're very experienced with a lot of knowledge, so...
Well, like what? Like, give me an example of something to see if I do. I mean, I've been shooting so long that look, I look at every new technology that comes out because I have to learn it. We all do, because the last thing you want to do is be left behind. So if there is a new feature like IAF, right, lock on tracking, so I learn all of these things that help me become a better photographer. I think exposure is nothing. That's easy at this point. That it's right in front of our eyes with every mirrorless camera. But for me, I can walk into any situation, and I always say get the proper exposure in 3 shots or less, and generally it's going to be 2, or you don't even need to take pictures anymore to see the exposure because it's right there. I'm not really sure what type of photography that I think I need to do. I'll tell you, I'm not great at posing people. That's one thing I'm not good at. When it comes to portraiture, I'm not good at posing people and telling people how to stand or how to be in front of the camera. That's something that I could always get better at. So,
would you like? Is it important to you?
I prefer capturing candid moments. I feel that those are much better. I'm really tired of portrait photography from people that it's just a good-looking model sitting on a bed with light coming in and they're semi-nude and then calling that good photography. Yes. Wait. I got to see whose name this is. We got Ofer Delavici. Yeah, that was not even close. But Ofer, I see you agreeing like, oh, but they're naked women. Aha, I like naked women. I like naked women. I mean, what's wrong with some naked women? Throw in a man or every once in a while. No, that's not what you meant. But what? Can he talk? Can we get him in there to say?
Wait, yeah,
I can ask to unmute. There you go.
Okay. Hi, Jared.
Hello.
What I meant is I'm tired of this too. I'm not doing this anymore. I prefer not to. I'm right now concentrate on concerts photography. As you can probably see the shirt, metal concerts photography. And I had a studio, but I have a son. So the studios became his room. But I understand you. I hear you.
Okay, good.
I totally agree with you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my stance on that. Is it's like portrait photography, it's good to know. It's a great skill set to have. You want to go photograph a business person in Tel Aviv at one of the tech firms and the tech companies using the window light and using flash and doing that type of stuff. Absolutely. It's a great skill set to have. Yeah.
All right. So, and thank you, Ofer. Jared, you have a great fan in Petach Tikva. I hope you can say it, Petach Tikva.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's a small, insignificant city near Tel Aviv.
Wait, show me the back of that shirt. The I Shoot Raw shirt. Turn it around. Let me see. It's bootleg. Let me see. Is it the real one? Not the real one. That's all right. It's very expensive to ship that stuff to Israel. I know that. So
it's
totally
Chinese.
fine.
It's Chinese.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's totally fine to have it. No, I mean, at least you rep it. They know it's me.
Yeah, that is totally true. Right. So let's talk about how what some suggestions for young photographers how to learn. So when people start, like they get all this camera with all these buttons, and they just are overwhelmed. What the hell do I do with it? So what would you suggest, like to real beginners, how to start?
In this day and age, it's always the basics and fundamentals. It's stick to the basics and fundamentals. Understand the exposure triangle. What is the cause and effect? I mean, that's that. Even before that, the very beginner, throw the camera on auto and go shoot for a week, right? Just go shoot. Go find what you like to do and just take pictures. Let the camera do all the work for you and just shoot. And find what you like. And then when you start getting images that you like, we can then break it down and analyze it. Why is this picture blurry? Well, you were at 1/30th of a second at f6.3 at 100 ISO. So here's what we could do to make that the proper exposure. So it's really just a matter of going out and experimenting with what you like. And then if you have mentors and teachers, starting to understand why you got what you got, why it may not have worked or why it did work, and evolve from there. But I think one of the most important things is just getting out there and shooting, giving yourself assignments to see the world and capture it. Like one of the assignments I give people is before in DSLR times was cover the LCD screen, take 24 or 36 pictures, and then look at them after the fact. Slow down. Don't do the motor drive thing. Like I'll shoot at 30 frames a second because I can when I'm doing a shoot that I'm doing an actual shoot. But on the flip side, like I did it at some of the baseball games this year, I set it to single shot where I only took one picture every time I pressed the shutter. And I only ended up taking 70 some pictures during the game. And a lot of them ended up being pretty good. And so it's one of those things to just slow down to the basics. If you have a motor drive, if that's what you're doing, you have an A9 and you're just shooting a ton of pictures, or an R6 and you're shooting a ton of pictures, don't do that. Challenge yourself to do just one shot and then take another shot. But don't sit there and just motor drive just because you're spraying and praying that you end up getting a good image. So that's some of the best advice is just slow down a little bit, understand cause and effect. If you're going to switch into manual, make sure you don't change shutter speed and aperture at the same time. Make sure you don't change ISO and shutter speed at the same time. You change one thing, take the picture, and then figure out what to do from there. If it's too dark, what do? We've got many options. If an image is too dark, we could bump the ISO up higher. That's how we make the camera more sensitive to light. We could open up the aperture to let more light in. We could lower the shutter speed to let more light in, right? To have the shutter be open longer. But this is where the cause and effect comes into play. If I'm shooting a concert and the metal band is running around the stage, 1/30th of a second is not going to cut it. So if already right off the bat we know that our shutter speed isn't going to be a slow shutter speed, we can lock that in and be like, all right, 1/1000th of a second. Now we've got two things to worry about only. That's when we start building the exposure. We know we're at 1/1000th of a second and we're shooting a concert, so I'm going to say 1000 ISO, maybe 2500 ISO. And then if we have a 2.8 lens, I'm going to shoot at 2.8. You look at the picture in front of you. If you don't have a mirrorless camera, take a picture, look at it, and go, all right, it's too bright at 1/1000th of a second at 2500 ISO and 2.8. Or if it's too bright, let's speed up the shutter speed, or let's drop the ISO a little bit. So that's just the game you got to play in your mind, or just play it out in the camera, because it doesn't cost you anything to take a picture. So that's and I'm just throwing a shit ton of stuff out of here for beginners, but don't forget about the photo story. And I say it and I hammer it home to everybody. Wides, mediums, tights, details. Don't forget that when you walk into a scene, there's a wide establishing shot. So shoot something wide, but tell the photo story of where you are. Like when I went to the Wailing Wall, I do a wide shot of the Wailing Wall with everybody walking by. I may do a slow shutter speed to get the people blurring as they walk by, or the people davening at the wall and doing that, and maybe get them blurry. But then I did some macro shots of some of the notes right in the little cracks. Then that's the details. Or you may get a portrait of someone at the wall trying to give you a wristband or something, or trying to ask you for money. I don't know if they're allowed to do that at the wall, but you get asked for money all the time. But I'll do that if I can take a portrait, right? Then you get your portrait. So wides, medium, tights, details. Always tell those stories. So even though so what I always say is, get the picture that you want first. I don't care if it's a wide, medium, tight, or detail. If that's the first shot, make sure you get that. But then when you're standing there going, I don't know what else I should do. I think I already did everything. Then that's where you're like, oh, I don't have a wide yet, or I could get a detail. So it's just building the story in every situation you're at. That's what I do in my own head when I'm on a shoot, and I'm like, I think I got everything, and then I stop for a second, I observe, I look around, and I'm like, damn, I forgot that. Let me try to do that next, and you never know what's going to come out of it.
Yeah, great advice. I think story takes all the exposure, focus, whatever. The story and the feeling that you get from a photo is much more important.
Yeah, and that's why on my website, on jaredpolin.com, you can see I don't just have one photo, right? There's not like a portfolio that just like one photo from something. It's a photo story of my trip to Israel. It's a photo story of me in Paris or Venice, or spending a day with Poison, the band, right? And it's the story of all of that.
Great. There's a thing that always around us, that we compare ourselves to others, and usually we compare ourselves to the best of the best. Yeah. And then there's a lot of photographers are living their lives feeling they're really not good always. What would you say? How to? It's really hard to be like this, because it can end up with quitting photography.
Well, that's a personal problem, right? It is. I mean, we all have to. We're not always happy with the work that we do, but you should also realize that the work that you do is good, right? You should be able to recognize what your work is and how it is, but don't beat yourself up, right? And don't quit because you don't like what something turned out. Learn from it and make it better. But also don't look for other people for positive affirmation. You got to give it to yourself that your work, that your stuff is good. It doesn't matter what Joe Schmo says. Joe Pishkapo over there is telling you that your work, they don't like it on social media. Screw them. They're not there. They didn't do it. So don't let other people's opinions, and this is a Steve Jobs-ish quote because that hangs on my wall. Steven bought it for me. It's like, don't let other people's opinions cloud your whatever the hell you want to do. I screwed up the quote, but it's along those lines. Don't let what other people tell you change who you are and change what direction you were going, because it doesn't matter what they say. And really just, all of this comes down to being secure in who you are. It doesn't mean that I don't get upset. With YouTube, it's a very algorithmic controlled world. And if a video doesn't do well, I'm like, did I do something wrong? Is this over? I've been doing it for 13 years. And now every time I have a bad video, you think, shit, is this the end of what I do? Because maybe people don't like it anymore. All of that stuff goes through your head, but you just can't let it eat away at you. You just got to stick through and just keep moving. And people always ask me, how do you get out of a photographic rut. That's something that people are like, well, what do you do when you're down, and what do you do to get back into it? And for anybody, I think the answer for me has always been looking at other people's work, the classics, right? Like even looking at what Ziv Karen does, but going back to someone like Jim Marshall, an amazing music photographer from the 60s and 70s, or Gordon Parks. Gordon Parks is, I think, one of the greatest photojournalists of all time. He was an African-American guy in 1940 something, walks into Life magazine with his portfolio and walks out of there getting hired. As an African-American in this country that's still racist to this day, in 1940 something, and his images are incredible because he was able to go into situations that a white photographer couldn't go into, and he was telling the story of people that were oppressed and kept down, and he was capturing all of this for history. And photojournalistic stuff work is great. You can go back to the Henri Cartier-Bresson or Henri, whatever you want to call him. You can go back to the classic photographers and look at their work. That stuff always inspires me to feel better. That's what gets me out of a rut, is I look at what these other people were doing, and then I feel great because that's great photography. And then don't turn to social media for the help of, you think you're going to find it there. I like to turn back to the old photo books. I've probably 200-300 photo books in my collection at this point because I like learning. Even if it's a photographer I don't like their work particularly, I still think it's important to have it because it's my personal belief that I don't like it. It doesn't mean that it's not good, and it doesn't mean that someone else doesn't like it, but maybe there's something that I can take from it if I take a closer look.
Yeah, well, social media, it's good for some things, but it's really ruining some other things.
Sure.
Authenticity and the true.
But it is what it is. It's here. It's not going anywhere. So you could either get upset with it, or you could just embrace these things and either ignore the things you don't care about. Like the things that I've learned is on social media, if there was a person I was following that pissed me off, that I got tired of their content for one reason or another, I had to stop following them or mute them, and I felt better that shit wasn't bothering me anymore. And I also say, if you look at my website and you look at the Paris photos that I did, I was in Paris and I was not happy with what I was getting. The reason I wasn't happy with what I was getting is I was trying to make a vlog at the same time I was trying to take photos and tell a photo story. If you try to do those two things at once, you're just going to not be able to focus. So what I ended up doing is going back to the basics. I had, at the time, it was a Nikon D850 and a 35-1.4, and that's all I went out with. I left the vlogging camera back at the room. I went out in search of the images. I didn't know what I was going to find. And what ended up happening is I would happen upon a cafe, and I noticed there was a dog. People brought their dog, and the dog was just sitting there. And I walked up to the people because a 35 isn't long. You have to get close. And I was like, can I take a photo of your dog? And so I did. I took 3 photos in different angles of the dog at the cafe. I said, thank you. And I went to another cafe. I walked down the street. There's another one, and there was another dog. And then I took a picture of that dog. And then there was, and it's also, you have to go up and ask people. It's always nice. You have to ask people. It's like, okay, can I take a picture of your dog? Sometimes they say oui, sometimes they say no, right? And then you move on. You don't get upset. But every time for like 5 different cafes, I went and there was another dog in a cafe with an owner. And then this whole photo story happened. I ended up with like 10 different dogs and walking around Paris, and I ended up with a bunch of cool shots. You never know what you're going to find. So sometimes you just have to go out there in search of you don't know what, and just see it and feel it, and it just guides you, right? I don't like walking around the city like Philly. I don't want to walk around looking for images. It gets boring, right? I like street. I mean, I'm not really a street photographer. I think the street photography aspect of just shoving a camera in someone's face and stealing their images is a bunch of bullshit. I don't like it at all. But if you go around, what do you do? What Manu, what was that? Holding up something to the camera. I see everybody's cameras, and it was like I didn't know what we were doing.
Manu, what are you doing? Oh my God, I didn't see it.
So holding up
are you embarrassing us? We're live with the USA.
I don't know if it was embarrassing. I just was holding up something, and I don't know if it was like a penis, like a character, or what. Was a moil? I don't know what it was. I guess we're not going to find out. But my thing is just go out there and shoot. Go out there, experiment. And another cool assignment I give people is go sit somewhere for 30 minutes with your camera. Sit somewhere. It could be a park. It could be a street, Jerusalem, somewhere, and just observe the world around you and capture that for 30 minutes. It might be difficult in the first 10 minutes to see the world. You're not seeing the images around you. But the challenge is you have to sit in the same spot. I'll let you rotate, right? You could switch lenses if you want, but you have to find the images. And I did it in a coffee shop, and I started to see these lights up above that created leading lines. And I'm like, that's a cool image. Then I had some shots of my coffee mug, which I don't drink coffee. It had tea in it. And I liked how the background looked. So you never know what you're going to encounter or what you're going to find, but a good challenge is just sit there 30 minutes, set a clock, set a timer, and see what you come out with just from that spot, because it forces you to see what's around you. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Cool advice. Right. So an interesting question. What do you think about first, smartphones and AI? What's the future of photography?
Yeah, so smartphones, I have absolutely no problem with smartphones. I'm kind of tired of the industry, hearing people be like, the photo industry is dying. No, I still think that the photo industry from a professional standpoint, in terms of gear, is the same place that it was 20, 25 years ago. I think they sell more now professional gear than they were then. The thing that shrunk was all the people that bought point and shoots are the same people that have cell phones that do the point and shoot. So it's not like they took away from people that were actual photographers. I'm not going to go away, I'm yelling a lot, but I'm not going to go away and I'm not going to use my iPhone to do a professional gig. This is not taking my job from me. I look at this as the minor leagues. Someone who gets a camera, phone, a kid who only has this to shoot with, and they don't have a real camera, but this is a camera. They go around and they start to discover that they're into creating. They graduate to the next step. That's what I think about photography in that sense. I don't think cell phone photography is taking away from actual photographers at all. When it comes to AI, there's a lot of benefits to AI. The fact that I can go into Lightroom and select the background, it will automatically select the sky or the background or the subject so that you can tweak your exposure on just the subject. I mean, this is stuff we did in the darkroom. We dodged and we burned, right? We did all that stuff. So now that we have smart technology, the AI that has been trained and learned, they trained it, that's how it learned, to select out me with my hair, and it could do a great job in Photoshop where that would have taken me 30 minutes to do in the past.
That didn't work. We tried to do the flyer for this live.
Well, it depends on the photo and it depends on the lighting. And then you can
your
still...
hair was like
sure. Right. I'm a very difficult subject to cut out, but 99% of the things that you try to cut out are perfect. And so AI, I think you need to embrace technology. We're going to see computational photography coming to our mirrorless cameras because it exists. It's a thing and it will benefit us. I don't care about stable diffusion. I don't care about all of the things that have studied or scraped the internet and learned learned from all these images, and then they're able to spit out that Lensa AI thing and spit out a portrait that learned from something. I don't get offended. Maybe they probably used my images, but so what? There's benefits out there. Yes, there's always going to be things that don't work out or that someone takes advantage of and cheats. I don't like cheating, so screw them when they cheat. But I think that you embrace the technologies as they happen, because all the people that hated digital at the beginning of digital and were afraid to go to digital were left behind by people that went digital because they just never adapted and never advanced and continued to learn. You're into film photography, so be into film photography. That's fine, but also understand, digital and now the AI technology. We're going to see computational photography take off in our cameras more so than now. It's already there. HDR type images where there's a reason your cell phone will like the iPhone, when it does HDR, is probably taking 20 or 30 pictures in that fraction of a second and then taking the best pieces of them and mushing it together. If that technology helps us to become better photographers or makes better images, then so be it. And again, I don't think cell phones are taking away from actual photographers.
All right.
I'm yelling a lot.
Yeah, it's positive thinking. I agree. So, Jared, I'm looking at the time and I feel your time is very. I appreciate your time.
Go into
Very-
overtime. Give me more questions.
Yeah, but I see that you're having fun. So whenever you're ready to go, just let me know. Right. So let's.
I
talk
just
a
have
little
to be
bit-
on another one at 3, so you got a little bit. And then I want the audio recording so that I can put it up as a podcast to my people so they can listen to me yell at people. But it's also I need another piece of content for when I go away in a week, and it's going to be hard for us to make a podcast. This would be a cool little podcast to put up there if that's all right for people to listen to.
If your audience is okay with my outrageous Israeli accent, so no problem.
And if they aren't, fuck them.
Okay, agreed.
Isn't that the Israeli way? Fuck them. Like, we'll do it our way.
Yeah, like Frankie did it
He did it his way.
his way. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about business of photography. Like, let's say somebody wants to start a business and really become successful. Do you think there is like some glass ceiling that photography is has some limits to it, like business wise? And
No.
what would you suggest people to do?
As I suggest to everybody that wants to be a creative today, you have to be a well-rounded creative. It has to be, you can focus on just photography. There are people that make a living doing that, but you need to be well-rounded in the sense that you understand that if someone says, can you shoot a commercial, a video for me? The answer is yes, because you have the technology to do it. So don't just cut off your nose to spite your face and only shoot photos if there's opportunities to make money doing other things, because you can make a lot more money on the video side sometimes. If you understand the editing and you understand the shooting, you can benefit from that tremendously. So like I said earlier, sometimes you have to do the things you don't want to do to afford the things that you do want to do. And a lot of that's when you're starting out in business, you have to take certain gigs. I would turn down certain things because it's like, oh, you're only going to get paid $100. And then I realized years later that it wasn't about the money, it was about the connections. It was about the people that I would have met on that shoot might have led to bigger and better things quicker for me. It's not saying that you should do things for nothing all the time. You should be very selective about the things that you choose to do, that if it benefits you to do them, then that's a good thing. Right? And sometimes it may not benefit you, but you just want to do it because you like it. So sometimes doing personal projects can lead to paying gigs. Like my 6-degree project has led, which I pay for. I pay for my travel. I pay all my expenses. I shoot for free. I give the people that my subjects the work, but I've ended up with book covers from one of the people that I photographed, and it was a book cover in the US. Then he had his book printed in Germany and Italy, all these different places. And now I would get phone calls from them and they would have to buy the image from me again. And so I never intended to make money at that, but I ended up getting paid in the long run because I put myself out there. I did a shoot with interesting people and it ends up benefiting me. Business is tough. You have to find your way. Is your way shooting weddings on the weekends or wherever they do weddings in Israel, and then taking less money to shoot something else? But connections have always been so important, beyond important to have connections, because one person knows you did a great job, can share it with their network, it's the networking effect. But the more people you know, the more people you encounter, the more opportunities exist for people to want to hire you.
Yeah, I think it's one of the problems that when you know you're doing good in photography, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will do good in business, because there are many other aspects like connections, like marketing, like.
There's also opportunities where you may not need to be in your own business. I mean, everybody here looks a little older, but in not older like old, but in terms of you're not in high school and you're not, just coming out of, I guess, the army and going into work. So there are a lot of opportunities for 20-somethings and 30-somethings, even 40-somethings and older. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of tech companies in Israel. If there's something that you believe in and there's a company you like and you make contact, you're like, look, I'm a creative. I do photos. I do video. I can help you with your marketing. Like they could potentially hire you to be an employee of a company, and you could still be creative and do the stuff for them, with them, because you work there, but still have the ability to do other jobs on the side. But not everybody is built to have their own business. And that doesn't mean that you're not successful. That means there's other opportunities out there that might be better where someone else owns the business, but you benefit tremendously by joining forces and joining that team and creating what you want to create, if that's what you want to do. And not everybody wants to make money at this. Some people just want to be a better photographer because they already have made all their money, or they just want to work, or they already did their work, or it's a side thing it's a hobby that they do for fun. I just encourage you to just keep doing that. And if you want to give the gift of photography because you don't have to get paid, find more people that you just run into people that are like, can you do something? And you're like, yes. Or give back to the kids or different organizations inside of the country that you want to work for. Just reach out. I mean, I remember one of the places when we did the Vibe Israel thing, they took us to, I guess it was a kind of like an orphanage where kids lived, and it was tremendous. We were there for a Shabbos dinner, and everybody went around the table, talked about what they were thankful for. We broke bread, and you listen to where these kids, like one kid was from France. I was just like, how you end up here? And it just, it was just interesting. But maybe you could work with an organization like that, tell their photo stories, help spread the word of whatever they're trying to spread, but it also feels good to give back. Maybe go and teach one of these, hey, can we do a photo class for these kids? Right? Let's go shoot. Let me bring some cameras for them. Right? Because I've been fortunate enough to get a ton of cameras from Canon for a project and lenses that I've been able to give to schools, kids, inner city schools, underprivileged kids. One kid stopped me on the street one day, saw me playing pickleball, and was like, "You're that guy." I'm like, I am. And the kids were like 14 or 15, and I was like, "Do you have a camera?" He's like, "I'm saving up money to get something, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Here's my number. Give it to your parents. Have them call me." And then the parents called me, and I'm like, "Meet me at the park tomorrow with your kid." And I gave the kid a setup. I just met him, but I knew he was saving money. He showed an interest. And because I have the ability to do that, I did it. I had camera to give him. And so that, giving it, paying it forward is super huge. It feels good, but also being able to give someone the gift of photography, whether it's me taking pictures or them being able to take them on their own, is building for the future. And all I tell them is pay it forward in the future. When you're done with it, give it to someone else. Let someone else learn, and help them. And that's really what I try to do now, or that's, try to learn from my past, which was I never wanted to share information. I never wanted to give it away. To now just you give it all away and it comes back in spades, and help as much as you can help. Do what you can do, because you never know what tomorrow brings, if it even brings tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah, amazing. Right. So few last questions from the audience.
Yeah.
Verdit is using like kind of old DSLR with heavy lenses, and
well, Manu says they flash people all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't read this. L Mount Alliance, I flash people. Are you doing workshops? I haven't done workshops in years at this point. Ofer's my biggest fan. Okay, that's cool. How about smartphone? Okay. Now, what else you got?
Yeah, so that was pre-ordered questions. So what would you suggest, like more, let's say, elderly people who are the gear is heavy? What would you suggest them to do?
So that's something that I'm starting to figure out too as I get older. I switched over to some really heavy lenses. If it's just everyday shooting, maybe you start to switch over to a lighter f4. Maybe that becomes the thing, or prime lenses that you can manage. And if you're shooting landscapes and things that are a little slower, there's a lot of those lenses are lighter. They're not terribly too heavy. And so maybe that is a good option. Gear-wise, you're not going to shrink very much. You're not going to buy Micro Four Thirds, in my opinion. That's super light, but then you start to add a big lens to it, and that ends up being extra heavy and top heavy. That might not be the answer. But maybe if you're on the Nikon side, it's a Z6, or even a Z50 is a super light camera, or Canon having a crop sensor R10, or Sony having their A60 some hundreds, which are so outdated at this point I wouldn't recommend them, but maybe those are better options. If just shrinking down the camera in that sense and going to smaller, lighter lenses, I mean, that would be the only option at that point. Or also the straps, right? Like I have Black Rapid straps, and that's something that I wear that takes the weight off of my shoulders. Camera bags can be heavy, so we don't always want to put all the gear in it. So maybe our backpack that has a chest strap is easier, or maybe a rolling bag. One of the best things that I was yelled at for, I had a really big Tamrac bag that had every lens in it, and an AP photographer yelled at me and said, my back's going to kill me. So you should roll your bag. So I have a roller bag. I roll it to the shoot. Then I switch into a shoulder bag, and then I grab and go. So everything that you can do to save your body as much as possible is what I end up doing.
All right. Thank you. So wait, another question by Ziv. Let me... Ziv, are you here? Let me just 1 second. I will allow the microphones. Please.
Left-handed gear. I'm left-handed.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. Ziv had a question about what about like left-handed or some handicapped people that don't have the good.
I'm looking for a company or a manufacturer that will be able to help me with a handicap project. People who are really challenged with the gear. So it's both left-handed and generally speaking about handicap gear. If you know of anything, it would be really helpful because I'm trying to help them, connect to photography.
Yeah. So going back to when I was in high school, we had a kid who had cerebral palsy and he couldn't operate the camera. One of the things they came up with was using one of the old plunger shutter releases. Going to the other side of the camera was one option. I've critiqued somebody's work who was in a wheelchair and just they used their wheelchair to move forward and backwards. And I gave them some tips for, image stabilized lenses. They were doing a fantastic job, but just building certain sort of rigs on the wheelchair that allows them to get closer and using the chair to move in and move back. Now, you're not going to find a left-handed camera, but today there's nothing that says you can't lock down the camera onto something. So if someone's in a wheelchair or they don't have the hands, or if they only have the one hand or whatever, you can use an iPad to control a camera. You can use a phone to control a camera. You can put the shutter button right there and you can tap it to take the picture, or use a wireless release. So I think there's a lot of technology out there today that is already ready to go for this. It's just a matter of if there's a rig that you need to build to do that, to make it easier, then do that. But you can use the phone apps to trigger cameras, to change the settings, and give you a preview of what you see, so you don't have to do it the traditional way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do now. Thanks.
Okay, good.
All right. Thanks, Jared.
What's your main camera at the moment? I see as a question.
Yeah.
Right now, it's the Canon R3 and all the RF glass. Going back 3 years, it was I shot Nikon since I was 15. Up until I went on the road with Bernie a couple years ago, and the A7 R4 became the right camera choice for me because the Nikon couldn't cut it on the road because of the autofocus, and then Sony's autofocus was more advanced than Canon at that time. And then 2 years later, R5, R6, R6 Mark II, R3, the autofocus on the Canons is there, and the glass is tremendous. The RF glass is just mind-boggling. But you don't need all that stuff. Yeah, you're out of focus, Manu. You're out of focus. Your camera was out of focus.
Right. Okay, so some final, like really quick and dirty questions before we end this session. So, stills or video?
I'm a still shooter, but the crazy thing is I've made my living off of video because YouTube. But I'm a still shooter.
Okay, interesting. So you answered teacher or photographer?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a photographer who so happens to teach. I mean, it's like Mr. Rogers. I don't know if you guys knew Mr. Rogers over there, but I teach by doing and showing, and that's how Mr. Rogers was. He would go do things and people would learn from watching and then go do, and also Bob Ross with the paintings. So I'm a photographer who can teach people, and that's the way I look at it.
Nice. So nowadays, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I will outshoot anybody with anything. I don't care. Like, yes, there's limitations to the gear. I don't like Fuji per se. I don't like their cameras, but I can get great results with them. I'm not a Nikon shooter because the autofocus is garbage. But if I needed to use the Nikon to shoot a job, I will get the job done. I'll use a Z9. Like the Z9 is very good, right? It's one of the best. It's the best Nikon ever made. But when you compare it to other things in the autofocus of the Sony and the Canon, you're like, well, it doesn't hold up, but it's also very good, right? I could still get everything that I need because it still works. So if that's what, it doesn't matter. Gear doesn't matter. Well, we talk about it. Gear does matter when it does matter, and it doesn't matter to the people who don't know what they're doing. You could have the greatest camera in the world and have no clue how to use it, or you could give me the cheapest camera in the world and I'm going to outshoot the person that has $20,000 in gear that doesn't know how to do it.
Right. Color or black and white?
I've always been heavily black and white, but it's all dependent upon what the image feels, how the image feels, right? In this day and age, we shoot everything in color, and then some images just feel right in black and white. For example, if you go to my Israel photos, there's a cherry salesman. He's got a cherry cart, and he's going, and this is in Jerusalem somewhere, and he's going down the street, and there's like a tire that he uses as a brake on a chain that he steps on, but that image, I went back and forth. Do I keep it in black and white, which is how I see it, or do I go with color? And I felt when I went color that the colors became too much of a distraction. The Coke sign in the background, the umbrellas hanging. Well, I don't know why there would be umbrellas. You guys don't get rain mostly. So whatever was hanging in the background was distracting. So all of that, I just felt the color didn't make sense. Even though the cherries were red, I just felt black and white just looked better. And it's personal preference. But a lot of times I go to black and white because I just feel it's better. And when it comes to concert photography, sometimes if you have shitty lighting, the bright blues and the just straight up red wash, you got to go black and white, and it gives it actual life. So
nice.
I just like seeing the thumbs up happening over here by Ofer.
Yeah, well, he's
and Ziv giving thumbs up too.
He's your biggest fan in Israel, or maybe the world.
Well, I may be coming to Israel in March, maybe.
All right.
So keep it. Last time I went to Israel, I spoke over at Google. About 150 people came out to that. So keep an eye out to my social media. I would like to do another meetup there, and I'll have to figure out how to set it up and where to set it up. But I'll get the Vibe Israel people on it. And when I do get there, if it is in March, I'm definitely going to have a meetup where we do a live Q&A and just talk to everybody again.
Nice. We have the connection. As you told, everything is about people and connections, right?
Yep.
Wide or tele?
That's the right one for the job. But back in the day, everything was telephoto for me, but I ended up shooting everything too tight. And I think like a 35, if I had, like, I love the 35 millimeter. I think 35 1.2, when those start coming out from Canon and Nikon and Sony, that is such a tremendous lens. I love 35. I like, what I say is, if you're going to shoot wide, make sure you tell the story. Make sure there's enough information. Because what I say is, like, say there's someone just had a kid, right? Or it's a family room. It doesn't matter. It's a room that has all these pictures on the wall. And if you just did a photo of someone sitting on a sofa and it was a tight headshot, well, actually, let me take it back to the Paris statement I always make. If you take a portrait at the Eiffel Tower and it's a tight headshot and you can't tell that you're in Paris at the Eiffel Tower, then what was the point of actually being there? So if you're in a place and the Eiffel Tower is there, but you show the ambiance, you show the scene, the subject can still be the main focus, is your portrait. But if the Eiffel Tower's out of focus over here, or you see something happening in the background, or if you're sitting in a room and say it's a Holocaust survivor, there's not a lot left, but you're doing a photo shoot with someone and you're in their space, and around them you see all of these old photos on the wall of maybe someone they lost, unfortunately, or there's family members on the wall in images. You can't just take a tight shot of that. You've got to make sure that you shoot it wide enough that you see all of the other stories inside of the story. Because the photos inside of photos are the best. When you can encapsulate maybe that person's parents, or maybe their grandkids because they survived, or just all of this different stuff that's on the wall, or even just tchotchkes, or anything that's there, the TVs, anything that's old, they're animals, they're all memories. And that if you just shot it too tight, you're missing out on the whole story inside the story. And that's what I have to say about that.
Great. PC or Mac?
Oh, I mean, we're 100% Mac all day.
All right.
I just don't know in Israel if it's more expensive to import that stuff, or if Mac sales happen in Israel. Because I knew for a long time that they were considered supercomputers and couldn't be exported.
Well, no, we have them, but it's more expensive here. But
Right.
I think most people use PC, but some use Mac.
Got it.
People or nature?
Yeah, it's people all day. All day. I just like telling people's photo stories and not so much the nature.
So I think the final question, how do you present yourself? Jared Polin or Frono's photo?
My friends call me Jared, and people that don't know me call me Fro, or encounter me call me Fro. It doesn't matter. I answer to whatever. That stuff doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, you call me Jared, call me Fro. My friends call me Jared because they know me.
All right, so I hope we made some friends here, and we'll call you Jared, if it's okay with you.
Yep.
All right, guys, any really final question to Jared before he goes off to his amazing work out there on the YouTube and everything else?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
What is the meaning behind I shoot raw?
I shoot raw is I shoot raw. It's I shoot raw. I shoot raw.
Okay.
It's that. That's what I do. I mean, it's
Me too.
good. It's the only way. I mean, it's a double entendre, of course, or triple, whichever way you want to take it. But it's really I shoot raw. I shoot the best of the best. You might as well shoot raw. Don't go to shoot JPEG. Why not shoot the original? So
We follow. Thanks.
you're welcome.
Jared, I wish you a great day and thank you so much for your time. It was a great pleasure having you here and a great experience. We learned a lot and hope we'll see you again sometime, maybe when we come to Philly or when you come to Israel.
I venture to say I'll probably be coming there sooner than you'll be coming here.
Most probably. So I hope to see you in person, not just on the Zoom. But
Awesome.
it's a good start.
It is.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, guys. Keep shooting.
Thank you. Good
Bye,
night.
everybody. So, what'd you think of that podcast, Steven?
Oh, it was great. For those that don't know, I did not listen to it at all.
Not
Jared
yet.
knows that.
Yeah, that's right. He's going to listen to and edit. There's really nothing to take out of it. I thought it was
I
funny.
hope.
I thought it was enjoyable. I don't know what Manu was doing during that whole thing. Manu was doing holding something up to the camera, and I didn't know what it was. And I just kept moving on because I didn't want to call them out too hard. But it was nice to talk to people and see their reactions on Zoom. And I just thought it was a fun conversation. So we hope you guys enjoyed that. We didn't want to not do like an episode where we normally do our stuff.
Yeah.
Because I hate when there's episodes. I hate when there's guests, except if it's Vanessa Joy. I think you guys enjoy that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with guests. I just think it has to make sense. The guests.
Right, makes sense. It's just, but when I tune into like Pivot podcast, I don't want to listen to it if Scott Galloway isn't there. I don't really find it as interesting. So that's
Okay,
just
gotcha.
my take on
Yeah,
that. I just like having the original cast and stuff. But I mean, if Steven isn't here, it's all right. Nobody really cares about him. Imagine having Dan on. Dan, you want to fill in?
Hey, there was a time where me and Todd did a podcast for 2 episodes, if you remember, called RAWtalk.
Yeah.
We talked about movies and videos and stuff like that.
That's because it was only for when I was away. Yeah.
I don't remember at this
It was
point.
when I couldn't be on the show. You guys changed it up. Anyway, guys, you want to give us some messages? 313-710-9729. You want to send us feedback? You do it there. You want to give us some 5-star ratings wherever you listen to podcasts?
Yes.
Do it there. You want to do something? I don't know. Go do it. And this is episode number 36. We'll be back next week with more, I hope.
Yes, we'll have a
As
lot
long
more
as the
for you.
plane didn't go down.
Oh, don't say that.
But I'll be in first class and you'll be in the back. Maybe.
With the peasants.
That's right. You be with the peasants, Stephen. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Jared Polin, FronosFouthow.com. See ya.
Peace.